Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name, spelling your last name for the record?
Vanessa Irene Pettigrew.
Could you please, oh, I'm sorry.
T-T-I-G-R-E-W.
What is your date of birth?
7/15/1983.
Do you work?
I do.
What do you do for work?
I'm a quality improvement specialist.
What does that entail?
I do quality improvement projects for hospitals, for community health centers, and for community members.
Where do you live?
I live in Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Are you familiar with Kathleen McLean?
Yes, I am.
Did she also go by Katie?
Yes.
When did you meet Katie?
I met Katie in 2015, and prior to that, I had met her on an informal basis.
How did you meet her in 2015?
I became a client of hers. I was referred to her from a friend.
So when you say a client, what do you mean?
She's a Reiki practitioner.
Could you please explain to us what a Reiki practitioner is?
Yes, I'm actually also a Reiki practitioner, and I studied 2 other different modalities as well. And it's an energy therapy that helps people with wellness. It helps them with calming and overall sense of great well-being. It's a modality that has been proven in studies to be effective in PubMed, and it's readily researchable now.
So when you met Katie in 2015, she was practicing Reiki?
Yes, she was.
Where was she doing that?
She was doing that in her practice in Marlborough, her office.
Did Katie have any children when you met her?
Yes, Katie has 3 children.
So I guess I should back up a little bit. You met Katie when you were a client of hers while she was doing Reiki.
Yes.
Did your relationship continue outside of Reiki?
Yes, I actually had maybe 1 or 2 sessions with her, and then I felt comfortable from there on taking things on my own, and we became really good friends and actually sort of an apprentice at one point, so we had a very close relationship.
Okay. And you said when you met Katie she had 3 children?
Yes.
Was she married at the time that you met her?
Yes, she was married at the time I met her.
Who was she married to?
She was married to Chris Foley.
Is Chris Foley the father of her children?
No.
Who is?
That is Stephen Rocca.
And where was she living when she was married to Chris Foley?
She was living in Sudbury.
Did her children live with her?
Yes, they did.
At some point, did she divorce Chris Foley?
Yes, she did.
Where did she live after that?
She lived in Sudbury in her own home.
Who did she live with?
She lived with her 3 children.
And are you familiar with Ingolf Tuerk?
Yes, I am.
How did you meet him?
I met Harry through Katie around November.
So you said Harry. Is that how you knew him?
Yes, his nickname was Harry.
Okay. And you said that you met Harry through Katie, is that right?
That's right.
Had you been friends with Katie when she met Mr. Tuerk?
Can you repeat that?
So you had been friends with Katie when she met Mr. Tuerk, is that right?
I was friends with Katie much prior to meeting Mr. Tuerk, that's right.
How did they meet, if you know?
They met through online dating.
And do you see Mr. Tuerk in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you please identify him by an article of clothing?
Yes, he's wearing a blue tie.
Your Honor, could the record please reflect identification?
Yes.
Yeah. How often did you communicate with Katie during your friendship with her?
Katie and I talked almost every day by text and by phone.
How often would you see her physically?
We got to be pretty close. We would see each other on weekends pretty often.
How much time did you spend with Katie and the defendant when they were together?
The same amount of time. It was nice. We watched football games together. We had really great cookouts and times together as friends.
How often do you think that you spent time with the two of them together?
At least a couple times a month.
Would you speak with the defendant separately from Katie?
I would, yes.
How often would you say?
Less. Our relationship was a little bit different. Katie and I were very close on multiple different ways. Harry and I became colleagues, and so we would talk mostly about work.
So can we talk a little bit about that? How did you and Harry become colleagues?
I applied to St. Elizabeth Medical Center as a surgical technologist, and I had a coworker that already worked there. Her name was Patricia McNamee, and she was the VP of Perioperative Services that I worked prior with her at Beth Israel. And so I applied there. I let Harry know I applied, and that's how the position started.
Why did you let Harry know when you applied to St. Elizabeth's?
Harry was a surgeon there.
And do you know in what field?
Yes, he was the chief of urology.
When did you?
The surgery department.
Oh, thank you. When did you get your job at St. Elizabeth's?
It was around 2018 that I recall.
Would you see Harry during your work shifts?
I saw him almost daily, if not face-to-face. I saw him working. He worked almost 4 days a week in surgery. And I was in the OR with him on occasion.
About how many times were you in the OR with him?
Off the top of my head, at least 20, if not more.
And how was the defendant referred to while he was at work?
Most people called him Harry or Dr. Tuerk.
You stated that Katie was living in Sudbury after she had divorced Chris Foley. Is that right?
That's right.
Was she living there when she met the defendant?
Yes, she was. She had a lovely house in Sudbury.
At some point, did her living situation change?
Yes, she decided to move in with Ingolf Tuerk.
Where was that?
In Dover, Massachusetts, on 26 Valley Road.
You said 26 Valley Road?
29 Valley Road. Sorry,
Thank you.
excuse me.
And who was living in the house at that time when Katie moved in?
When Katie moved in, Harry had his 2 children, and also Katie's children moved in as well.
Were the defendant's children living in the house full-time?
Part-time. Their mother lived in Dover as well.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that?
The children that Harry had, mother lived in Dover as well.
So there was shared custody between the defendant's children, is that right?
Yes.
When Katie moved into the defendant's home at 29 Valley Road, what was the status of their relationship? Were they married?
When they moved in?
Yes.
They were dating with the idea of getting engaged.
Did they get married?
Yes, they did.
When was that?
It was in December.
Were you at the wedding?
I was not. It was in Vegas.
How did that come about, if you know?
They had been talking about getting married for a long time in their relationship, and they had talked back and forth about getting married in Vegas a number of times. So on this occasion, it was just kind of a surprise for the family and all of us that they got married in Vegas. And, you know, the kids got along really well, so it made sense at the time.
Were the kids at the wedding in Vegas, if you know?
Not that I know of.
So it was just the two of them that went on a vacation and ended up getting married?
Yep, private moment. Mm-hmm.
And after they got married, did they continue to live at 29 Valley Road?
They did.
Turning your attention to February 3rd of 2020, did Katie obtain a 209A restraining order against the defendant?
Yes, she did.
As a condition of that restraining order, did the defendant have to leave 29 Valley Road?
Yes, he did.
Where did he go, if you know?
He went to first a colleague, a friend, Charles Lax. He went to another place in Dover, and then he eventually, I think, went to Florida to live with Bob from Stewart. He had a camper in Florida that he was staying in.
How often were you communicating with Katie at that point?
Pretty much daily.
How would you communicate with her?
Mostly by text and also by phone.
What types of things would you and Katie talk about?
We would talk about her day-to-day, you know, the weather. We would talk about COVID, because it was COVID at the time. We would talk about anything and everything, fashion, nails, literally everything that a friend would talk to a good friend about, her family, her kids. I feel like I knew the kids myself very well. She would send me videos of the kids.
Would you talk about your relationships?
Yes.
And in February 3rd, or around February of 2020, after the defendant had moved out of the house, were they taking steps towards divorce, if you know?
They were, yes.
At some point in April of 2020, did that change?
Yes, there was a change. Harry had sent an email through his lawyer to reconcile.
And was Katie considering that?
She was going back and forth. She was uncertain, but conflicted. She had to weigh the pros and cons. She was very concerned about her children having a normal, stable life. She wanted the best for her kids. That's all she wanted.
And did they move towards reconciliation, if you know?
They did.
And how did that happen?
Like I said, Harry's lawyer reached out that he wanted to reconcile, and they started the process. I believe there was a prenuptial agreement, and there were several things that they had to decide upon with each other that they would do moving forward to make it work, including having Dr. Tuerk undergo some psychiatric help and to refrain from alcohol.
Excuse me. Sustained. Please disregard that. That last answer is stricken. Next question, please.
So when they began reconciliation or talking about reconciliation, where was Katie and her children living at that time?
Katie and her children were living in Dover.
And where was the defendant living?
He was living in a hotel in Dedham.
Prior to coming to the hotel in Dedham, where was he living, if you know?
As far as I know, he was living in Florida, and he had come up from that trip by car.
Did he drive himself, if you know?
Katie helped him.
And how is that?
He had some back pain, and he felt like he couldn't do the drive alone. So she, out of the kindness of her heart, obviously wanted to help him. And she drove to meet him halfway, and I believe Mr. Rocca also went as well to help make the transition of cars.
Mr. Rocca being the children's father, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. When the defendant came back from Florida and was staying in the hotel in Dedham, was Katie seeing him?
Can you repeat that?
When the defendant came back from Florida and was staying at that Dedham hotel, was Katie seeing him at that time?
Yes, she would bring him food. It was COVID. It was very difficult to get supplies and food, and she would supply him with his dinners or something to eat.
Was him coming to Dedham just another step in reconciliation?
Yeah, it was a way to safely try things out and to maintain the relationship.
Turning your attention to May 15th of 2020, do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
What happened?
I received a text message from our friend Kurt
What's Kurt's last name?
Fenesteel.
And what was the text message that you received?
I received a message believed to be from Harry, and he made a kind of alarming statement to Kurt, and we didn't really know exactly what it meant.
So I think I'm going to back you up just a little bit. Approximately what time was the first text message that you received from your friend Kurt?
It was around 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And what was that first text message that you received, if you can recall?
I remember the context of the message. It basically said, "Sorry, brother," and said that Katie was a devil, and she manipulated everybody.
Prior to receiving that text message, did you receive another text message from Kurt?
I'm not sure which text you'd be referring to.
Is your memory exhausted as to the text messages that you first received from Kurt on May 15th of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be helpful to review your text messages?
Sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, these have been pre-marked as exhibits. Once I show the exhibit to the witness, may I display them on the screen?
Yes, no objection,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Reddington?
No, of course not, no.
You may.
And if you could just look at Exhibit 147 to yourself and read it, and let me know when your memory is refreshed, please.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. And what was that first text message that you received from Kurt?
He was asking me to call him as soon as possible.
And what else did he say?
He said we might have a popcorn situation.
What did that mean to you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear it. We might have a what situation?
We might have a popcorn situation.
Okay, thank you.
And what did that mean to you?
Objection.
Overruled, she can answer it.
Popcorn was a code word if Katie needed anything from Kurt and I immediately, that we would be able to respond to her as soon as possible.
When you first got those two messages in the early morning hours of May 15th, how did you feel?
Objection.
I felt,
Stay. Next question.
Okay. Ms. Gilman, could you please put Exhibit 147 on the screen? And if you could move up just a little bit.
There's a bit of a glare. Could we possibly turn the lights down a little bit? Is that better, Juris? Yes. Okay, all right. Thank you.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just move the screen down a little bit, thank you. And Ms. Pettigrew, are those the two messages that you received from Kurt on May 15th?
yes, they are.
Okay. And did you receive a third text message from him?
Yes.
And what was the third text message that you received from him?
The third text message was a copy of a text from Harry.
And what did that text message say?
That text message said, "I'm sorry, brother. Katie's the devil, and she manipulated all of us."
Ms. Gilman, could you please move down to page 2? And there's a text message in green on page 2 of Exhibit 147. Is that the text that you received from Kurt that morning?
Yes.
And what does it say?
"Kurt, I am sorry, brother.
If you need to refer to the exhibit in front of you, if that's easier to read, I know the screen is somewhat far away. I apologize for that.
Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she's a vindictive devil. She played us all. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry.
After receiving that text message, what did you do?
After receiving this text message, I tried reaching out to Katie, and me and my husband, we got into the car and we tried to, the first thing we thought of was, and what I thought of was to check on the children.
And where did you go?
We went to the house at 29 Valley Road.
When you got to the house, what, if any, cars did you see there?
I didn't see any cars.
What did you do when you got to 29 Valley Road?
I rang and knocked on the front door several times. We didn't get an answer, so we got back in the car and we tried to find where Harry's hotel was.
How did you do that?
We knew it was in Dedham, and we just tried which hotel we thought it might be.
What happened while you were looking for the hotel that the defendant was staying at?
I was able to see the two cars from the home at the hotel, and I knew that that was the right location. There was a Jeep and a Mercedes parked there.
What did you do when you saw the Jeep and the Mercedes parked there?
I took a picture of both, and then I went inside, and
I'm going to stop you there. Ms. Gilman, could you please put Exhibit 118 on the screen? If you could just move, thank you very much. And looking at Exhibit 118, could you please describe what that is?
That is the Jeep that they had.
Is that the photograph you took when you went to the hotel in the early morning hours of May 15th?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, could you please put Exhibit 117 up on the screen? Thank you. And what is depicted in this photograph?
A Mercedes.
And whose Mercedes is that?
That is also one of the family vehicles.
And was that in the parking lot in Dedham on the early morning hours of May 15th?
Yes, they were next to each other.
To your knowledge, who normally drove the Jeep?
Harry liked the Jeep, so Harry would drive the Jeep.
What about the Mercedes?
Often Katie would drive it, but they would occasionally switch up the vehicles.
When Harry was living in Florida, which car was Katie driving?
She was,
If you know. If you don't remember, that's fine.
she was mostly driving the Jeep, but I don't recall which in particular.
Thank you. So you stated that you found the hotel in Dedham when you found the vehicles in the parking lot, is that right?
Yes.
After you snapped those two pictures that we just saw, what did you do?
I went in, and I'd like to remind everyone that it was COVID time, so it was a little bit awkward.
When you say awkward, what do you mean?
People weren't supposed to be talking to each other, like gathering or anything like that, so it was just an awkward time for everyone. So to be like looking for someone and trying to find someone, it was just a little bit awkward. So I went up to the clerk at the front desk, and I asked if they could ring the room of Harry Tuerk.
And what happened then?
They rang the room multiple times and nobody picked up. And I was very frustrated. I couldn't reach my friend because I thought she was in there because the car was there. So then I went back to the house at 29 Valley Road, and I tried to make sure the kids were okay again for a second time. And I went to the side door, the glass door this time.
So you said that when you went to the hotel, you were sort of frustrated because you couldn't get in touch with your friend when they were ringing the room. Is that right?
That's right.
Which friend are you referring to?
Katie.
Were you trying to get in touch with her in any other way during this time period?
Yeah, phone calls, text messages. It was not like her.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
It was not like her to not answer repeated texts or phone calls.
And when you say phone calls, that would be to her cell phone, is that correct?
That's right.
So after you left the hotel when you could not find Katie, you said you returned to 29 Valley Road, is that right?
I did.
Then what happened?
I knocked on the side door, which was glass, and that leads into the kitchen. And I saw Sam there. And
Who's Sam?
Sam is her son.
Okay. And approximately how old was Sam at the time, if you know?
I don't remember. Maybe 13 around.
Okay. And what happened when you found Sam in the kitchen?
I think I startled him. I was frantically looking for his mom at that point. And I asked him for the phone number of his dad. And I also asked him if all the kids were in the house. And he said, yes, they were upstairs.
Did you see any of the other children at that time?
I did not. They were upstairs, and my goal was to get the phone number for the dad and just make sure everybody was in the house.
So you said that you entered the house through the side door and you were in the kitchen, is that right?
Yes,
Did you go in any other rooms in the house?
I did not.
Ms. Gilman, could you please place Exhibit 148 on the screen? And what is depicted in Exhibit 148?
That is the house at 29 Valley Road.
Your Honor, may I approach, please?
Yes.
I'm handing you a laser pointer.
Okay.
So you have to press this button. If you could please show the jury, you stated that you originally went to the front door. If you could just show us where the front door is located at 29 Valley Road.
I don't know if it's reaching.
It will, just move it
Okay.
around, thank you.
This is the front door.
And when you returned the second time after you had been to the hotel, you said that you went to the side door? If you could just show us where that side door
The
is.
side door was over on this side.
And that led directly into the kitchen?
Yes.
Is it in between, is the side door in between the garage and the house?
It was in the back. It was in the back of the house. Like they had a patio and things like that in the back. And on the patio deck, there was a sliding door that was glass.
Okay, so if, Ms. Gilman, if you could place Exhibit 149. So this door that's in between the garage and the home, that's not the door that you went in?
No, it wasn't. I did look through that door, but I went to the side door to meet Sam in the kitchen.
When you went to the sliding glass door, did you have to go through a fence or a gate or anything like that?
I don't remember if there's a gate that I went through, but I had to knock on the door because that was a locked door, and Sam opened it up.
Thank you. So you stated that you spoke with Sam and you were able to get Mr. Roca's phone number, is that right?
Yes.
What did you do at that time?
I had gone home, and I took a couple minutes to kind of gather myself and think about what to say to the father. And I told him that the kids were home alone, I couldn't find Katie, and I didn't know what was going on, but it would be a good idea to do a wellness check.
And at that point, did your conversation with Stephen Roca end?
I sent him the pictures of the two cars of where I thought they were, or where now I knew they were. And I had also, I think, sent the text from Kurt that made me more alarmed to think that they needed a wellness check.
And at that point, did you stay at your home after you had alerted Mr. Roca to the situation?
Yes, I did. I took a shower, and then I tried to kind of like look at places where Katie might have gone if she, just needed like some time by herself where she might be.
At some point that evening of May 15th of 2020, did you go to the Dover police station?
I did.
Why did you do that?
By that time, Stephen had called me and told me that something was going on with Harry, that he was being brought out by an ambulance, and he was like, what is going on? And the Dover police had been involved, and the Dedham police had been involved at that point. And then the Dover police called us in for Kurt and I for a statement.
Did you give them anything else while you were at the Dover police station?
Yes, I gave them my phone because I thought it would help find Katie quicker.
And did you consent to an extraction of your cell phone?
I did.
Was that done to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.